Hello, Internet. It is Professor Ashley here to talk to you again about moving your classes online. So last time in my previous video, we talked a little bit about the practicalities of taking an in-person lecture style class and moving it online using Twitch and YouTube, amongst other sources. And today I'm going to talk to you a little bit more about online pedagogy in a more theoretical sense. So how do you take content that was meant to be delivered in person and move it to the internet and still make sure that you're keeping your learning objectives? As always, I'm more than happy for you to like, comment, subscribe, and ask me questions because I'd love to talk more about this stuff. So my first step is to be transparent. Don't be afraid to ask for help. This is actually less of a comment about moving your coursework online and more a comment about just generally good course preparation involves being transparent. Ask coworkers, ask colleagues, ask your university support services. Usually there's a Center for Teaching and Learning Excellence. That's what we call it at the University of Utah. But there are resources on campus that help you make the best possible class you can. Personally, for my classes, I reach out to industry experts. These folks are extremely generous with their time, and I couldn't be more lucky. You probably also have folks in your life that would be generous with their time and help you improve your syllabus. One of the upsides to this, to everything being topsy-turvy right now, and to moving our classes online, is it's a good chance to reflect on our syllabi, on our courses, and think, is there a creative way I can achieve what I need to achieve for this class? Step 1, revisit learning objectives. The core to any good class is to have clear and concise learning objectives and then kind of reverse engineer about how you're going to reach those learning objectives. So maybe this is step 0.1. If you don't currently have learning objectives for your class, get them. Learning objectives are extremely important. For me, it's about having clear communication about my expectations of what the students will learn and accomplish over the semester, and I want them to be on the same page. I want them to know that this is what I'm expecting them to learn, and here's how we're going to do it. For my own class, I'm going to use the example of my spring 2020 Intro to Game Design class. This is a class that I teach every semester for sophomore entertainment arts and engineering students. And I've had to go ahead and put in some COVID-19 patch notes. I had to revamp the class as of today. And even though I co-developed this class with Jose Zagal, who's another professor at the University of Utah, so he definitely gets credit. Even though we co-developed this class, we've each kind of taken it off into our own direction. And this one, the reason why I'm using this as an example is because this was the most challenging class to adapt. For user research, we were doing surveys for the rest of the semester. You can do surveys online pretty easy. User interface design, it's art-based, so we're making art assets, and that's something that you can show online and on Twitch quite easily. So for the Intro to Game Design class, this is probably the most challenging because the end project is for them to make a board game that then the teaching assistant and I play. Yikes, becomes kind of difficult, huh? So to think about how I could adapt this class for online purposes, I decided to go back to Canvas, look at my course objectives and learning outcomes, and work from there. So the learning objectives that I had is that students should walk away from the class having a foundational knowledge of game design and the ability to identify key elements which make up gameplay, the ability to articulate design differences between genres, improved critical thinking skills through analyzing existing video games, improved creative thinking skills through designing and prototyping unique games, and improved public speaking and communication skills from pitching game ideas. And finally, effective time management skills from completing projects on time. Usually that last one people say is a giveaway. It's not. It's not. My class is hard. My class is hard, y'all. Okay, so what did I do? I went and revised those, but I also decided that I was going to be extremely transparent with students. Transparency and honesty and being super open and direct maybe exposes me to criticism. Maybe some of you watching this video is going to be like, wow, this seems like trash. And if you do, let me know and I'll fix it. The only way to get better is to be transparent. So I wanted the students to know that I'm taking this seriously. I'm taking their education seriously. And this is not just a work from home because I want to stay in my pajamas and play Animal Crossing all day. Although that might be a benefit. But I actually do want to make sure that we're achieving our learning objectives. So when we look at these, I just flagged which ones that we've accomplished and which ones we're still working on. So the foundation knowledge of game design, we're still working on that. But Actually, we're going to achieve it through lectures. So that one's okay. I'm pretty confident that we can achieve that through my lectures, which I'll be delivering online through Twitch. The ability to articulate design differences between genres, we've actually mostly achieved that one already. So great, we don't have to worry about that. Hopefully the students feel the same way. Improved critical thinking skills, well, we have an assignment that we continually do for that one, so I feel pretty good about that. Improved creative thinking skills through designing and prototyping. Oof, this is the one that actually I'm a little bit worried that we're not going to be able to meet. And I'm going to be really honest and open and tell my students that. This is the one that I had planned on achieving through doing all these workshops and fun little design activities in class. And since we're not going to be in class, I don't know how I'm going to achieve that. I have some ideas, but I'm not sure about this one, y'all. And this is exactly what I told my students. Improve public speaking and communication skills from pitching game ideas. We've already done that one, thank goodness. I don't know how I managed 30 different pitches online. Ugh. Effective time management skills from completing tasks on time. This is one that we continually do as well, right? So I went back, I looked at my learning objectives, and there's only one that's really worrying me, but that's great because now I know which one to focus on. Step 2, make a list of the resources you and your students have access to. I made a list of the different things that I have access to in my personal life and at home that I don't need to go into the university for. As the University of Utah is shut and asking people to not come on campus because of COVID-19, I would need to make sure that I had the technology and the support that I need to be able to do things from home. And I'm very lucky because I Twitch stream, so I do. I have a webcam, I have Twitch, I have YouTube, I have voice chat, I have a PlayStation 4, a Switch, a gaming PC. I have industry pros who are extremely generous with their time and are happy to come onto my Twitch stream and talk to students and answer their questions. I have PowerPoint, I have internet. By the way, that was not a humble brag. It's not a humble brag. Nice people deserve to be told that they're nice. I have PowerPoint, I have the internet, I have Canvas, and I have email. So that's a pretty good list of how to get started with doing classes online. But one of the things that I think I wasn't aware of and I didn't think about until one of my colleagues, Jose, brought up, is I wasn't sure what students had access to. So I jotted down a list, and this list comes from talking to students. Students have access to a smartphone or computer. All my students have access to some kind of means of checking the internet or email. This may vary. They have some sort of gaming device, even if it's just a card game or board game or a deck of cards. They have something that they can do game design stuff with, which is helpful. And they usually have access to people online through a smartphone or a computer. So not necessarily access to people in real life, but they definitely have access to people online. They probably have access to fast internet, but I can't be sure. Some students might be stuck overseas, some students might be stuck in rural areas, some students might just not have internet at home. That's the reality of 2020, and it's kind of elitist to think otherwise. So I need to plan that students might not always have internet access, and if they do, it might not be fast internet. They probably have access to a microphone and webcam. Most smartphones do, but that's not also a given. They probably also have access to other people to play games, for example, roommates or family or significant others, but they might not. A lot of people live alone. They do not have access to gaming consoles. They might, but I'm going to assume that they do not have access to gaming consoles, and so I'm not going to assign them anything to do with consoles. They do not have access to the library. The University of Utah Library is shut, or at least they're discouraging people from going to it. So I need to be mindful about what readings I assign or what assignments I give. Gaming computers with current gen graphics cards. I can't be sure that every student has a laptop or a computer that has RTX 2080s in it, right? Not all of us are as lucky as I am. So I need to be mindful if I'm assigning games that might not run. And they also don't have access to the EAE building. We're all shutting down and encouraging people to work from home. So that greatly limits the amount of spaces where people can network, where people can talk to one another, where people can sit down and play even board games. And it limits the amount of technology that the students have access to, which is a real bummer. But knowing that lets me better plan. So step 3 goes along with step 2. If you're not sure what access your students have to things, just ask them. At Entertainment Arts and Engineering, we actually polled our students to find out what equipment they have access to, what equipment they would need, and we're developing a process for them to be able to check out that equipment from us so they can effectively work at home. So if you're not sure what your students have access to, just ask them. Asking your students what they have access to can actually be pretty easy. If you're not already familiar, Google Forms, and I swear I'm not a shill for Google. Google Forms is a website where you can quickly make a survey and distribute it to as many people as possible just really quickly. It's very easy to use, very straightforward, and you'll get responses instantaneously. You can really quickly get an idea of the kind of resources that your students might need. Step 4, get creative. I've made an online teaching equation, and this equation is learning objectives plus resources equals... In all seriousness though, learning objectives, once you have those outlined and you understand what you can achieve, what you have achieved, and what you need to achieve in your class, planning a lesson plan online becomes much easier. You have a clear direction of where to go. Once you factor in resources, that limits you. That limits you on what you're able to do, what you can do, and what you can't do. So that will guide you in developing a new lesson plan online. So what your online lesson plan is going to look like will be very different to what mine looks like, which will be very different to what our colleagues looks like. This is actually very individual, and that's okay. It's okay that all of our syllabi look different. They look different anyway. The important thing is that you keep your learning objectives in mind. That's going to be your North Star that guides your course development online, and that you keep in mind your access to resources and your students' access to resources. Step 5, communicate early and often. Let's be honest, we don't really know what's going to happen with this virus outbreak. I've never lived through a pandemic. Have you? Probably not, right? Maybe if you're lucky enough. So we're going to need a lot of really good communication skills. And just like when you're at university and you invited your neighbors over to a party so they wouldn't call the cops on you, same thing happens with students and communication. We have tons of communication platforms that students have access to that are quick and easy, and you're able to quickly get messages across. In the coming days, there's going to be a lot of change. There's going to be a lot of uncertainty, but usually people are pretty reasonable if you let them know ahead of time. So as much advance notice as you possibly can is the best. Also make sure that you're communicating clearly which platform you prefer and which platform you're going to be using the most to contact students. Things like Gmail or Slack or Canvas, which ironically the Canvas logo kind of looks like the coronavirus, but those are the methods that I typically use to contact students. I threw Vine and TikTok on there as a joke because I felt like this presentation was getting a little long in the tooth. Oh, and also, sometimes people want to use Skype. Don't. Step 6, share your ideas with colleagues. If you come up with a brilliant lesson plan, make sure you share that. Share it online. Make a YouTube video. None of us is as dumb as all of us, so we're kind of all feeling this out right now. None of us really have a solid lesson plan. I just kind of winging it, and that's okay. If you come up with a brilliant idea of something you can do in class, share it. Share it on social media. Let us all know, and let's all help each other out. Step 7, be agile. If something doesn't work, try again. Because everything's new and we're kind of filling this out, if you develop a course idea or you develop a lesson plan and it doesn't work, also let us know about those and try again. Just because something doesn't work doesn't mean you're a bad teacher. It means that you were creative and you tried something new. I've had terrible lesson plans. I've had terrible lectures. I've had things that just straight up didn't work that probably never will work. But I learned a lot from them, and as long as you're transparent with your students about the process and tell them, not that you don't know what you're doing, you all know what you're doing, be confident, but that you're going to try something new and creative and exciting, and it may or may not work. All right, that's going to do it for me. That's all I have for today. Thank you so much for watching, and if you have any questions or would like to get in touch, please feel free to email me, tweet at me, watch my Twitch streams, whatever. I'd love to hear from you. I'd also love to know more information about what you would like to know. So please do get in touch and know that as a community of educators, we're going to get through this. Wash your hands, sneeze into your elbow, and get hyped for Animal Crossing and Doom.